There we go. We are live.
We are live.
That was weird. We had a weird glitch.
Technical errors.
That's not too well for the start of this.
No. Morning. What
Morning.
up? Welcome to Waffle Time. I'm Matt. This is James.
Good job we didn't swear.
Good job we didn't say fuck or bugger. Yeah, we're I don't know. We're gonna do some fun stuff again today. We're in the mood for making things, so we're basically gonna. I guess we're gonna just keep making things on the show and see if anything.
It's going to turn from waffle time
to make thing time.
Yeah. Craft time.
Craft time. Craft time.
Mitto and Jim.
Mitto and Jim. Oh, that sounded all cuddly bear.
Bit Rosie and Jim.
Homoerotic, to be honest.
Anyway,
we've
we've been building up an MS.
Yeah, an MS Pro.
MS01D Pro that we obviously don't have a lot of time to do this, so it tends to take a little time. Essentially, that is going to have a couple of recommended upgrades on and be a bit of a blog post for us.
Yeah.
It needs a few little tweaks doing. It needs some parts finishing off. I didn't have any super glue when I was putting it together the other day, so the pulleys aren't assembled properly and stuff yet, but that arrived yesterday, so that'll be taken care of.
It's a case of we're going to kind of go back to basics a little bit and
for sure.
Just kind of run through things that you may or may not already know.
Yeah.
That might be useful. And today, probably the
one we're asked for a lot.
The one we're asked for a lot, and the key factor in everything is building dampers. You know, we've all got crazy dampers everywhere, and you know, people always ask, "How come your dampers are so smooth?"
Yep.
And we are basically going to give away all of our secrets. Not that they are secrets, but just when you don't tell people every day, they think it's a secret, but it's not. Damper building is just
takes a bit of time.
Yeah, it's just time. You know, take your time and do it well, and then you'll get the best result from your car. So we're gonna build a set of dampers here, just basically MS dampers with the standard 300 weight oil. Set the rebound for the front and rear, and that's pretty much it. But it'll be all the little tricks we use to put them together.
And we'll mark out the points where you should take a little extra care. And some little things that some people don't do, like making sure that the pistons are trimmed neatly and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So a lot of people don't notice these things, but once you're told, you'd always do it, and you'll notice the difference straight away.
Exactly. So I guess we just wait for the buzz. We just start at the beginning, and let's get the gyno cam out and show people.
It's out already. It's out already. This might get a little bit shaky, so you'll have to bear with us.
Right.
And I need to loosen all my wires. Right.
Do you know what I just thought of? I could do with a pointer.
Pointer.
Yeah.
I have a scalpel here.
I need something pointy.
We have this cam, which the wire isn't actually that long, dude, so it's going to have to be done in this area.
I'll use this. Can you just like lean it up? Can we see that? There you go. Okay. So here are all the parts for a damper. So this end is the bottom, and this end is the top. If Jay leaned over the counter and did it the other way, that'd be handy. But
it's all backwards. It's hard.
So we've got the bottom ball cup for it, the spring perch, the damper shaft. That's the piston. They're the two C clips or E clips that hold it in. The E clips, you need to bear in mind, are sided. So I don't know if you better see it on camera, but let's put them there. You see, this one here has got the shiny side up, and this one here has got the flat side up.
It's not easy to.
So one's got a rounded side and one's got a flat side. Basically, the rounded sides face the piston because they're the smooth sides, and obviously don't damage the piston. The flat sides just be out of the way. So there's those, and they go on there. Then we have the bottom aluminium seal for it. So the base cap, I suppose. Then we have the O-ring. This is a low drag O-ring, the blue one. And then we have the O-ring retainer, the guide, the seal, the bit that does most of the work is there. And then we have the spring adjuster with the little O-ring that goes in it, the damper body itself, the spring, and then at the top half of the damper, we have the bladder, which goes on first. You have the optional foam to increase sort of bound and rebound, stiffen the damper up. You then have the damper top cap and the aluminium top for all of it that holds it all together.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is show you how to put this lot together.
And oil.
And oil. And also this stuff here, which is, you know, green slime, damper slime. This is a Tamiya TRF one that I personally use, which is very good, but a pain in the ass to get over here. The next best option is we do something called green slime, which is very good. And we also have some magical ones from, well, all around the world, really. We've got some from Denmark, but yeah.
There we go. That hasn't changed what it's supposed to.
What are you trying to do?
Change camera.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, if we kind of Gynocam-esque, because obviously I need to start putting these together.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to get.
We're going to have to mount it.
Involved.
I wonder if we can mount it like this.
I don't know. Is that going to work, or is that just going to be?
That'll probably work as long as you can tape it in place. So if you want to get some tape on that, I'll change it.
Yeah, I don't know where the tape is. I had to tidy up and
It's right in front of you.
hid everything from myself. Is Gynocam about to literally be looking at my gyno?
Depends where you aim it, but possibly. We will obviously get to all the questions that we've got for this week at the end of this. And we are on a bit of a tight time schedule today, unfortunately, which doesn't help that we're a bit late starting. But let's see where that's pointed, see if it's crotch cam.
Let me just adjust. You got a pair of socks I can.
There we go. That's what you're looking at.
Okay, that's not too bad. Can we just go there?
Yeah, I was going to say you're going to have to be wary of light.
That works. So right, these are all the bits for all of the dampers. So I'll just shift those out of the way. I feel like this is one of those cameras, you know, where you're, you know, they play cards.
Yeah.
Like that poker thing.
And it shows you what's going on under the table.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are they doing? What are these people up to? Right. Okay. So I'll start with the basics. The first thing I like to do is put together the actual damper shaft with the E-clips and the piston. The first thing to do with the piston is pick it up and basically manually inspect it, make sure there's no burrs on it or anything like that. You know, there's no sort of extra marks. I mean, you can see.
It's worth.
See there. I'm just picking up a little edge.
It's worth mentioning that these are the standard pistons, which are molded. MST also produce machine pistons, which have none of these marks on, and they are more accurate. They are more precise generally, and they also come in different options in terms of piston diameter and number of holes and stuff. Yeah, not piston diameter. I meant hole diameter.
So as you can see there, what I did was I took the blade and I very lightly just skimmed off the burrs from that piston. Yes, that will leave a very tiny flat edge, but as long as you don't cut a massive chunk out of the damper, it's not too much of a problem. Okay, so here's the tricky bit. Putting these E-clips on.
My favourite job.
Onto the shaft. What I generally do is, oops, I'm dropping them already.
I've already dropped one on the floor.
Okay, good shout. You do get a spare one in the pack, which is handy because you can fire them across the room.
I always use it every single time.
So yeah, so basically what I normally do is I get it lined up. I don't know if you can see that. So I get it lined up, and then what I do is use the edge of the table to basically put it on the edge of the table and press down. So I'm gonna have to do that off camera, but am I? I don't know, maybe I better do it so you can see it. You see that? There you go. So like that, and then literally fire it across the room. Jesus Christ. So I knew
that was going to happen.
It's because I'm trying to look at the camera and put it on. And remember, when I'm doing this, the shiny side is up and the flat side is down. So let me just try this again. It's because I was trying to do it. Normally I do it like this, so my thumb's covering it.
This is just going to become
there you go.
On the floor time.
So that's gone on. It didn't quite go on straight. So what you have to do is once you've put it on, is just make sure it can rotate freely. So I'm turning that, and that's the flat bit of the E-clip.
Yeah, the most important part of that is to make sure that it can still turn when the piston's on as well.
Exactly.
Like the piston and everything should be loose
free,
enough.
it's not bound. Okay, so coming to the piston itself, probably can't see on camera. One side has dimples and the other side does not. So basically, it's the side with dimples that goes down, we decided in the end, wasn't it? No, dimples up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the side with the dimples faces up. And then you get this tricky fun, which is putting the other E-clip on. So what I do is I sit it on there. Now it's flat side up, so the smooth side is down. And then I use these. So these are basically a pair of snips that I randomly bought in Japan that were really good. And then I got some TRF ones that, because basically Jay killed my snips. And I got some TRF ones. So now what I've done is filed the sharp edges off these dampers, off these pinchers, side cutters, so that they're dull. So basically with that, I can then use them for building dampers without causing any damage. And I've dropped it again. Have you dropped one as well, Jay?
I've dropped 4 so far.
Oh my God. Right, so you get that lined up on the top. And then what I do is I use that to hold the piston and hold the E-clip. Just put my finger over it to make sure none of it fires off anywhere. And then plonk that on like that. So that is now on the top. Again, same thing, just make sure it's all seated properly and that the piston can rotate. It will be ever so slightly tight, but not completely bound up, yeah? So there you go, that's rotating in there. So I've built one of those. What I'm going to do now is quickly fire through the other 3. I say quickly, I'll do my best.
Do we still want the Gano cam on, or do we want to switch?
We could probably switch for a minute. I've shown people that step, so
They've seen enough of your crotch.
they've seen enough of my crotch. I'm just deburring the pistons.
Back to normal. There we go.
Back to normal. Less of my genitalia.
I've literally dropped so many of those E-clips so far. It doesn't help when you try and do it on a stool leaning over a counter.
How many have you dropped? 4?
I dropped 4 and I found 2.
Oh Jesus! We have this really special carpet.
Yeah, we have special carpet for our track, and we have like that's really good that everyone loves, and we have special carpet for the pits that everyone hates.
That's basically because if you drop anything, somehow the carpet just manages to swallow it. Like it just goes into a void in space and time and doesn't exist anymore. So
I don't like it when we're concentrating and we go quiet. It's weird.
yeah, I know. What we should have done is, if we had more time, was build these.
Should have assembled
like
the basics.
Left one unassembled.
Yep.
And then done the other ones. But this is waffle time, and we do need to waffle it out.
I'm doing something very stupid, but I currently don't have the tools that I need to do the job that I need.
What
Actually,
are you missing?
I'm going to steal them.
Are you putting the tops on?
Yep.
So as you can see, like once you're on the right bit of counter and you get into the swing of it, it's actually pretty easy to put the first one on. Jay is demonstrating how to fire them across the room. I'm a little bit nervous about getting hit in the eye.
You nearly did then.
You just fired another one.
Yeah, it's all right. This one landed on the desk. I have a bit slightly shaky hands, and this is quite a tricky job for me. Unfortunately.
To be fair, it's quite a tricky job for anyone. But
there we go. 1 down.
So you've done 1.
I spent most of the time when you had the Gano cam on just like on the floor trying to find the ones I dropped. I think maybe I'll just be building 1 damper today.
That's terrible.
We do have very slightly different ways of building our dampers, but essentially they come out with the same results, don't they?
Yes, damn it. I mean, you know,
we have different preferences on settings.
I mean, do you do this a different way to me?
Yeah.
What's different?
I don't use the edge of a table. I generally use pliers, although I happen to have left the pliers that I find really useful at home.
Edge of a table thing works, though, doesn't it?
Would
you like a spare E-clip?
It's probably mine anyway.
There's one there.
Yeah.
Bloody hell,
That
man.
was one I'd found on the floor.
Right, so I've got all 4 of those made. I'm just basically rotating them and making sure they all operate smoothly. What?
You're speedy. I think we should go back to Gynocam so I can get on quietly. Just
So what I've done is actually on these pistons, and this is a small tip. So as the pistons go together, obviously they're not a machined item, so there's a little difference in all of them. And what I found is that 2 rotate slightly freer than the other 2, right? So basically, the 2 that rotate less freely, I'm going to use on one axle, so they'll make the rears.
they're a pair.
They're a pair, and these 2 that are slightly tighter, because obviously you're talking about very tiny little parts, and they just will have differences in. If you use the machined ones, it's different because they're less. They suffer less from tolerance issues in terms of heat when they're manufactured. It's just an unavoidable thing. You're talking, or you feel it yourself when you build your dampers. You'll just feel an ever so slight difference in the 4 of them, and that's just down to the manufacturing. But I mean, they are a good quality piston and damper setup. So until you go into the stuff, that's the level that you're out, and when you go to the machine stuff, it steps up again.
Yeah, for sure.
So, right,
and they're worth. If you want to improve your dampers, it's worth going to the machine ones.
Exactly.
Some people find it a bit weird that you can buy, because the machine piston's currently available in 3-hole with 0.8 or 1 mil holes.
Yeah.
And 6-hole 0.6 mil holes. And some people find it weird that you can have the MST make another option that is the same as the standard one, but it's just because it's more precise. So if you want to improve your damping, then you can just step up to the machine pistons for sure.
Exactly. I mean, for us, generally, I mean, we're building this Pro as a bit of a demonstrator, really. But generally, I'd just go straight into machine pistons.
Yeah.
And we also do a upgraded set of plastics for it. So it's in the top mount and everything, which is just slightly more accurate, slightly more robust.
I mean, right here, I'm actually working on a set of dampers for my RMX, and I'm not going to machine pistons, but that's because the RRX, the standard, comes with slightly different hole sizes that aren't available in machine currently.
There you go. Right, so I believe it's time for Gynocam Part 2.
Yeah, let's switch you over.
So there we go. I think that should be camera in roughly the right place.
That's where you are.
It's good job I cleaned my nails last night.
And had a manicure.
I didn't. That's natural. I need to cut my nails. My nails grow like a girl. So anyway, right. Now it's pretty much a case of, I mean, they're the hard bit, and everything else from here is kind of easy, really, because there's not really anything to fire away. It's all just
it's just
little tips.
I was going to say, it's now more a case of taking care that everything is the same.
Right. So that'll do. Right. So the next step there is to get the. I need to put that in a better place. Right. The next step there is to get. You've got an O-ring, and you have the spring retainer, spring height adjuster there. So what you do with these is this literally pushes into a little recess inside there. So if you can see that on the inside edge, then what you do is you take your shock oil, and this is very important. If you don't do this, then your dampers will be crap and adjusting them will be a nightmare. So you literally put a little bit of damper oil on the O-ring in here, and then just smear it around with your finger so that O-ring is covered in damper oil. So I'll just quickly do the 3. I've already put the O-rings in, so but that makes a huge difference to your your ability to adjust your dampers.
Essentially, any moving part needs to be free. That's the most important
Lubricated.
thing. Well, yeah. But even the pistons, the pistons on the shafts don't need to be lubricated, but they do need to spin.
Well, no, but here's some other pointers. Right. Okay. So the next thing is the damper body, for which you will need the guide, which is that little white bit there, and the O-ring and the bottom cap. The guide, if you look on it, there's a little tiny burr on that, but where the guides sit, did you get that?
Just the one.
Yeah. Where the guides sit and the burr on the guide, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any odds to it at all. So when you're putting the O-ring in, you need this stuff. This is my Tamiya TRF VG lubricant. I don't know what VG is for, but I'm going to
very good.
I'm just going to, yeah, very good. So basically what I do is this, is you can see the stuff in there. Same with shock slime. I get a bit on the end of my finger and I pick up the O-ring. I put the O-ring in and I wipe my finger off so that most of it's gone in there. Right, so that is now lubricated inside there. Right, you just get all that in there. Then in goes the guide, pushed in the end, and then the cap goes on. Shazam. Now you'll notice I haven't done that cap all the way up, right? I've left a gap that's still loose, and I leave that loose until I've put the piston, the rod through the O-ring. If you tighten up, then put this through, the threads on here will damage the O-ring, right? So one thing you can do, if you don't have a shock slime, use shock oil. So make sure you've got shock oil on the O-ring before you put it in. Same thing, you put shock oil on the shaft before you put it in the actual damper. What I tend to do is I will get that and I will use some of the slime again and I'll just lubricate the whole thing, right? And if you want to go nuts, you can put a bit of shock oil on it, not going to hurt it, and just get shock oil on it on the very end so it goes through smoothly. When you've done that, you can then put the shock shaft through. That took very little force. You see it brings out the excess here. I'll just clean off my hands. So you've got a bit of excess on the end of the damper, and when that's done, you see that, work it around. Now that moves and operates very smoothly and very cleanly. It takes very minimal force to actually move it. Once you've done that, you can tighten up the base of the damper all the way. There you go. All right, give it a nip. You have to give it quite a hard nip because they can back off these things, and you'll see that it still moves freely and cleanly. If you have
and silently
well, if you have any resistance there, you've done something wrong, right? So take it apart.
Yeah, don't go any further.
Have a look for burrs. See what the problem is, and then start again. So once you've done that, you need to do the other three, which I'm going to do quickly. I might as well leave it on Gyno Cam because then it's like a recap of what I've just done.
If ever at any point during assembly you get some resistance or something that's notchy or uneven or anything like that, you just don't go any further because your dampers will end up rubbish. Yeah, you need to redo it at that point rather than hoping it will sort itself out.
Sort it out, get it going again. But that's just a little care and consideration as you're doing it is super important. There's building dampers isn't a race, even though I'm faster than Jay.
One thing I have noticed is we do it in a slightly different order. Where you're putting the pistons and the shafts and the O-rings and stuff on first, I put the spring perches on. Because I find it easier then, and I'm not twisting with the cap on and things like that to get the.
Actually, to be fair, that's a valid point. It's only MST dampers you can do it this way around, but actually some of the other dampers, the spring retainers have to go on first.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they can't fit over the end caps because the end caps are the same size as the thread. So this is what Jay means is there, and some of them don't fit over.
But But not only that, I find it where you've got your top cap on, when you filled the damper and that sort of thing, you're then twisting against something that wants to unlock. And
yeah. So I'm just doing there is I'm just literally putting a bit of shock oil on the damper body. As I put this on, it's still a little bit tight, even though it's lubricated, because obviously the O-rings are brand new. When you put your spring height adjusters on, make sure you're putting them on straight. You don't want to thread the first part of the thread, because that'll just be a nightmare. So that's just sticking those on. Just back that off and make sure that's loose. So that's just a...
Whenever you go to adjust somebody's dampers and they just twist and or unscrew the top, it's because they haven't lubricated the O-ring on the spring retainer enough, or the shock oil has dried out or whatever.
Yeah. But when these are brand new, the O-rings are tight. Yeah. When you get them to the top, don't nip them tight. Just
touch
leave them at the top. Yeah, they just need to touch. But what we'll do is, before I carry on with that, it's only because I got distracted by Jay, I will just lubricate these things.
You know, it's going to be funny when we get to the end of this and I have to use a touchscreen with shock oil and shock slime all over my hands.
Don't worry about your dampers being pretty or whatever. Just like, you're going to get crap on your hands. That's just how it works. Okay, so that one's nice and free. That's done. And again, this is all about getting the damper shaft through the O-ring without causing any damage. Like, that's the most important part.
The O-ring is essentially your seal, and if you damage it, your shocks will just leak.
Yeah.
And if it pinches, so again, then they won't be smooth.
You can have this backed off as far as you like, as long as you're not creating any resistance as they go through. It's fine. So again, just checking that that is all operating smoothly. Yes, it is. My fingers are blue.
Yeah, I noticed that. You look like a Smurf.
Well, for once, at least it wasn't a height reference.
Maybe it was.
Shut up, Jay. Okay. Nice and smooth. All nice and smooth, no resistance. Okay. So that is brand new out of the packet MST dampers. If anyone ever complains about MST dampers, you are wrong.
Yeah.
Effectively. They are all absolutely smooth and free.
If they're done right.
There's no problem at all with those. Yeah, if they're done right.
I think for me, honestly, MST dampers are the best you can buy. The only ones I would choose over MST
Overdose
are the Overdose HG dampers,
which are ridiculous.
And even then, like I don't run. I've got a set, and they're not currently on a chassis because they're not suited to my current setup.
Mm. I'm running them as well, but that's on a Deval.
Yeah.
I'm sort of obliged to run them because I've got a Deval. I feel like it has to be that way.
You'd be letting it down.
Again, putting these height adjusters on. They are a little bit stiff because they're brand new. As you use the dampers, they will wear in and it'll just get a bit easier. So try not to stress. Again, bit of shock oil on there. It might seem like you're kind of wasting a lot of shock oil and making everything messy, but you can clean your dampers up once you've done this. And what I tend to do is when I've built them, I'll give them a wipe down before I put the springs on.
Yeah.
Just to kind of remove any excess oil and sludge on them. If you're using them outdoors and you've got oil on them, not necessarily a bad thing, but remember, dirt will stick to them because the dirt has something to stick to. Okay, so there's that. It'd be interesting to get someone like Tunksy here and see his process, because Tunksy is a real build hound, isn't he? You know, like he
build hound.
Yeah, he you know, he loves the technical element of it.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see what he does with his dampers on top.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he builds them pretty much the same way, but whether he's got some little magical.
He kind of showed me how to do.
Yeah.
But then we've worked out our own little tips as time's gone on. And somebody like Mark as well, because Mark builds a lot of different dampers.
Yeah. Well, the only time it gets complicated for me now is when you start shimming the O-rings, which is bananas, really.
Well, you have to be careful on certain dampers. That's the worst thing you could do. Depends on the design.
Grab my grips, please. I need to show the world what to do next. Okay, so when you've done this, all operating freely still, beautiful, lovely, beautiful operating, lovely thing, damper thing. Anyway, when you've done that, what you do is the very bottom of the thread, you use your blunt instrument and you pinch the very last thread. And what you do is you get the bottom. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do this step now,
no.
But I just tend to do it now, so it's done. Obviously, I'd rather do it now while the dampers are empty. And you put on the bottom cups.
I sometimes do that after I've filled them, to be honest.
Yeah, I used to do that, but now I just kind of.
And mostly that's just because, say, for example, in your situation where you're using the same oil front and rear, I will wait until they're all assembled and I'll pair the dampers as to the two that are most similar for front and rear. And obviously, sometimes you'll run different length bottom mounts. And then that's why I wait till the end to do it.
Exactly.
Because they're zeros, I think.
I don't know if you can see. I don't know if it will focus on that. But you can see right at the end here, like between where my nail is, there's a little lip there. And that's like a little 1 mil gap between the end of the actual shaft and the start of the thread. That basically is where your pincers were. And that's absolutely fine. There's nothing to worry about. So again, crack on with the second one. Oops. Make sure it's the right way around. The other thing this does is, because obviously you're grabbing the same part of the thread, it makes sure that effectively all your dampers are even. You can leave more threads exposed to adjust your damping, or you can wind them up a little bit tighter, which will also adjust your damping. It's something we used to mess around with a lot, but now I wouldn't really bother, to be honest. But you can do that. Just letting you know the options there. That's that pair.
Should be like a Blue Peter presenter.
A little bit. And here's one I made earlier.
we should have done that.
Well, not really, because we're making them. So.
Yeah, but we should have done 3. Only had 1 left to do.
Yeah, but I guess you can see how long it takes to make a set of dampers now.
Yeah.
So this requires a bit of dexterity, because, you know, obviously you put in threads in the plastic because they're brand new. And so you need strong hands for that. I guess if you're a bit of a baby, you could hold it with a bit of a towel or something. Or once you get the threads going, you can do things like you can put the end of a ball driver through it and then literally rotate it like this, should you choose. But you have to get the threads going by hand first. Otherwise, you may put it on in a drunken fashion.
A drunken fashion.
Yeah. So that one's slightly tighter than the others. So I'll just back that off. See, don't too tight now. Okay, and then what you want to do is just check all 4. Remember that little the little gap I was talking about here? Just check all. Oh, actually, you can see it there, and you just want to check that they're all even. So I'm just going to.
At the very least, axle wise.
Yeah, so they're even.
Same kind of rule applies to dampers as pretty much everything else in terms of arms and links and stuff, where It's okay for the front and rear to be different, but it's never okay for left and right to be different.
Yeah. Just back it up ever so slightly. And they are even. Right. So here's the fun part. This is a shock oil pump. Right, there is my crotch, and there is a shock oil pump. This one is a Tamiya TRF all singing, all dancing, the bomb shock oil pump, which basically that has a little valve on it there, and then you open that, and it's got a seal. And what you do is use this very penis pump looking device here, which is sucking itself to the desk. And what you do is that goes on there, you pump away, and then that is now vac sealed. If I pick it up by that edge, listen, seal is off. Okay, so what I've done on mine is I've put the 3 little scratches here, and that just shows me which is the leading edge. Okay, so what I normally do is I'll put, say, the rear's furthest away from me and the front's closest to me, right? So all 4 dampers are in there now. I mean, these are all going to be the same, so it doesn't matter. They're just in pairs. If you want to, you know, make life a little easier, what you can do is just go on here, and you can put a little mark on the top threads where you can't see, because you're going to put a cap on there. But there you go, put a little pink mark on it, and that just lets me know that they're a pair. They're the ones with the same pistons that operate at about the same speed, and these 2 operate more evenly as well. Right. Okay, so next thing, what you want to do is fill your damper up with oil, not quite to the brim. Don't know if you can see that. It's not all the way to the brim. Then what you do is you go to the bottom of the damper and push up. So not so it pops out of the top over the oil level, just, you know, within sort of a mil or so of the oil level, and then drag it down slowly. And the reason I say that is because sometimes these airlock, and it will literally spit the oil at you.
Almost all of it in one go.
Yeah, just right. In one go. So what you see there is that the oil level drops slightly. So I will put 1 drop more in, maybe 2. There you go. And that oil level is now at the top, only just. That's probably ever so slightly too much, but I always build my dampers with ever so slightly too much oil in them, because I just think it's better to have them leak a bit of oil out and have the exact right amount in than it is to...
Yeah, leak a bit, you mean, just for clarification?
I'll show you.
Leak as you're building them, not during use.
You bleed it out when you put the bladder on, but we'll get to that. So there you go. That's that one done. And yeah, I'll do the others. There's that one. That one popped a little bit. What you're seeing now is from pumping. I doubt you'll be able to see that. You can kind of see it.
If you take it slightly away, it'll probably focus.
You can see you can see little bubbles at the edges. So if you see like around there, you can see little bubbles.
I think if you maybe do this, maybe keep it vertical and then take it a little bit lower. There you go. That will probably show it.
Well, you can kind of see there's bubbles in there anyway, and that's from pumping the piston up and down. It's all the air that's inside that damper being forced out.
Be easier to show on that.
If you take the lid off, we'll show the people.
I suppose you'll be at that stage in a second.
How have you got there so quick? What happened there?
I haven't put the bottoms on.
Ah, there you go. Pumping away. Boom, 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 boom. I give them a good few pumps just to make sure they're completely clear.
Real beginner's tip, which should be fairly obvious, but if ever you're pumping the piston and the piston is coming out of the oil, you will be there all day long because you are reintroducing air every time it goes back down.
Yeah, I said that a minute ago.
Yeah.
When
okay, I wasn't listening.
But you kind of said why, as opposed to just me saying don't do it. So once you've got that done, Get them all in there and get the shot pump out. And what I tend to do with the shot pump is to try and aim it so that the valve is between some of the shocks. Because what can happen is if you open the valve too quickly, you can suck oil out the top of the damper with it. So I get my pump on.
I spilled some more.
Right. Trick with the pump is don't go too crazy.
No.
Like 3 or 4 pumps is enough. And we've done... Ooh, look at my crotch. Look at my crotch. What we've done is we've done this a few times where we used to get these and just... you know, God, that's an awful picture.
Just stop.
So what we used to do is go nuts on these. And what happens is that you create too much of a vacuum and it sort of...
draws the oil out.
It almost stalls itself. Yeah. Draws the oil out and doesn't really do what you want it to do. So, yeah, basically what that's doing inside there is it's making little bubbles into bigger bubbles, which then float to the surface easier. How are yours doing?
Okay, apart from the one I spilled some oil out of.
That wasn't handy. Whose oil is that, Jay?
That's overdose oil.
Who owns that oil, Jay?
Sol RC.
No, Sol RC doesn't own that oil.
Sol RC owns this oil.
No, I paid for that.
I remember that with the oil that you've got of mine that's in your stash.
You can just take it all. I don't use that junk anymore. Okay, so you can't see, but that started taking some of the bubbles out. Cheeky thing that I don't know whether is recommended that I do, but literally, if there's bubbles in there, I put the dobber in.
I highly recommend you don't do that.
And I just try and get the bubbles coming upwards. But when you're doing that, be very careful not to touch the inside of the cylinder, because if you scratch it, you can put the bug in. So there you go, that's that. Just pick it up, make sure it's got a seal. And now we wait. Might as well go back to normal cam for a moment. Because I think seeing me pumping.
I'm enjoying not being on cam. Don't do that. Seriously, it's a family show.
Is it? Right. Okay. So that's that done. We're now basically waiting for these.
I just
cup of tea.
Did things in a very backwards order. I'm not awake enough yet.
I don't know why this bit comes out of here. This part of the pump is relatively useless, to be honest.
It just means you can spin it free.
Well, kind of means you've got a
protective
spare
case.
Rubber seal, because that rubber seal is the same as that rubber seal.
No, it's much bigger.
Is that so? If you drop it, this breaks and that still works?
Possibly. I think it's just so you can twist them around, and because shock oil is slippery, so you're not actually getting the pump slippery. It's worth mentioning as well the Tamiya shock pumps that we have. There is a much cheaper option available on our website from Ride. These are £58 or something, and the Ride ones are 30 quid. They're well worth having, and as sort of obvious as it is to everyone that owns a shock pump, I literally wouldn't bother building shocks unless I had a shock pump now. It makes such a huge difference. While technically it isn't impossible to have the same effect without a shock pump, you'll be there for many, many hours instead of a short amount of time. Shock pumps basically will save you 5 or 6 hours minimum to have good quality, well-built dampers.
What I'm doing now, and just so everyone's aware, is I've taken my dampers out. I've just pumped the shocks up and down a couple of times just to try and, get rid of the very last little bits of air bubbles that are probably in there. There was one damper that had 2 or 3 little bubbles in there, and I'm just getting those out.
One thing I don't know if it's technically even possible, but I find that the overdose oil is easier to bleed. It seems to get rid of the bubbles quicker.
It's generally slightly thinner for its weight as well, and it's a very high quality.
Well, you say that it's actually the correct one.
That might be something to do with the mineral and synthetic thing, though, because I believe that is a mineral-based product.
No.
Oh no, it's not. That's a mineral-based product, and that is fully synthetic. That's correct, isn't it?
No, technically.
I thought it was synthetic.
Just don't worry about it.
I don't know. I know that's expensive, and that's not.
Yeah, the MSD stuff is fine. Nothing wrong with it at all. I've used it many times quite happily. It's available in 300 or 100. The 100 bottles are massive. The 300 bottles are the ones you get with every chassis, essentially. I think mine are good to go.
One more pump. One more pumper saw. Oops. Almost there.
These are reels.
And I think we're going to be ready for gyno cam.
Yeah, you have to bear with me 1 second. Let me just put this one together. I'm in that critical stage.
Do you remember to set your rebound?
Yep, that's where I wanted it.
How do you set your rebound?
That's on full. That's what I want.
Oh, you're on full rebound.
Only on these pair.
So what I will do is when Jay puts this on gyno cam,
Which is now. You can talk.
I'm just intrigued. Right then. Okay, so that is that should be the final pump of air. Yes, they're all good. Okay. What you will see in your oil actually is there will be little tiny bits of the shock slime, TRF stuff. So in this oil is very tiny little bits of blue, but you don't have to worry about those. And I have one. No, that popped. So I had one bubble, but I've made that up. No, they're all clear. So the next thing, excuse me, I'm going to set the rebound on all these four evenly, and I've got a good trick for this. That is the bottom spring retainer, right? That's how it normally goes on, that way up. To set rebound for all four shocks evenly, fit that upside down, butt it up, and that is generally going to be somewhere around the middle of the rebound range, right? So that now is lock solid. And what I do is I hold it like that, and that's me holding the rebound exactly in position. You then need the bladder, and this is the key to everything. With the bladder, I've still got sort of bits of oil and stuff on my hand, so I'm just going to rub that around the bladder to lubricate it. Sit the bladder on top, like so, and then literally you need to pinch the bladder, right, like this, and roll it on. Oops, I need to watch what I'm doing. So what I've done is pinched it and rolled it. So basically, as it rolls on, I don't know if you can see, you see that little gap there? As it rolls on, it just squeezes out any excess oil. And you can see there's excess oil on my fingers there that's just come out from the top. From there, you have an optional damper sponge. On our carpet, we tend not to run them, so I'm going to leave those out.
However, I'm putting them on the front of mine.
However, Jay's putting them on the front of his, apparently. So still holding this all in place, not having broken that seal, still keeping it upright, right? You put on the top cap like that. Just gently place that on there. And then you get the top seal, put that on, and gently put that on and wind it down. Right, not letting go of anything, keeping it all together. And then nipping that up. And as you nip it up, it just butts up against that rubber. Oops. There you go. And your rebound is now set. So if I take that spring retainer off and give it a nudge, nice, even, smooth rebound. Yeah. And that is that. So after that, just basically give that damper a bit of a clean up because that is a sealed unit now. The only part I don't clean up is the actual damper shaft, because obviously you want that to be lubricated. So that's kind of fine. You can give it a little wipe if you get any fluff stuck at anything, but generally leave it with the fudge on there or whatever.
The fudge.
So that's that one done. And I shall now move on to the others. There's my rebound setter. And obviously, as you get more into the RC side of things, you can buy specialist tools to set the rebound. We tend not to use them, so there you go. Dun, 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 dun,
I think we may have to get on the questions rather than me finishing mine.
Well, that's kind of the crux of it, really. Somebody's at the door. Well, to finish this damper, do you want to?
I'm going to just finish this one so that I don't mix up which two are done. And then,
Okay. So what you'll see there is that they've rebounded slightly differently, actually. But if you take your dampers like this and push them together, then you will see whether they're even or not. The rebound speed is the same. That's down to the oil. But what it means is on this one, I've obviously got a little bit of air in there. So what I need to do is take the top back off. Oops. I can see I've got a little bit of oil that's sat inside the bladder. I'll just mop that up.
Hi. Hi, James. Nice to meet you.
As James greets our visitor. And then what I'll do is take that again. Squeeze that up and set the rebound again. So there you go. Yeah, a little bit extra oil came out there, so clearly I didn't do that quite right in the first place. Hold it all together. Right. Give that a wipe, get the excess oil off. And that should now be set. Nope. I've guffed it. Live on camera, I've guffed it.
but it's good to show this because that's obviously a very critical point that we often, one of the questions we get asked about quite frequently is when somebody's car won't drive in a straight line. And that's often the reason it won't drive in a straight line, because the rebound isn't even left to right.
Yeah.
And the car will behave differently.
That's like a really important part of this whole process, is getting that set up properly. Now, what might be there is that I nicked out too much oil, ever so slightly. So I'm putting a drop in very slowly to make sure that no bubbles are coming out into the oil. So again, putting that back on. It better bloody work this time.
It's because you're live.
Putting that all together. It is because it's live. Roll that on. Excess oil comes out. Cap. Top. Oh, bloody hell.
We ready for some questions?
Yeah, should be. So they're looking fairly even. And actually they're still not quite set right. So I'm going to assume that this one has a little bit of air or something in the top of the cap, which is why there's slightly more resistance in it. The rebound speed, you can see though, is even. Yeah. There you go, they're actually evening up as I'm pumping them. Might just be that it needs a bit of manipulation.
We're going to have to crack on with questions because we need to.
The other thing you'll see is that if I pull it out, it will draw itself back in.
Yeah, I'll go back to a neutral point essentially. We need to crack on because we have
even. Very last thing, just so you can see how it's done. Spring, retainer. Hold the spring in your hand, pull it back. Slide the retainer on, and that is one complete damper. Yeah. I'm a Kavula. My work here is done.
There we go. Right, I've got a few questions. We're going to have to fire through these pretty fast, unfortunately. So we do have somebody here for a meeting that we need to crack on with.
Yeah.
Jason Thompson's asked, thoughts on the Triple XD as a rear-wheel drive chassis? My honest, quick response answer is if you don't have the funds to buy a dedicated chassis, it's okay. I've definitely driven worse four-wheel drive chassis that have been converted to rear-wheel drive.
I think you're kind of on the same answer as me.
If it's not going to be as good as a dedicated chassis for sure. It's not designed to do that, but it's it's not the worst option.
It's a very competent chassis. You know, you can make it do a lot of things. But rear-wheel drive, I wouldn't say it's ideal.
Martin Hansen's asked, when can Team 420 come visit you guys? And he knows the answer to that. It's when you find Jens.
Yeah, or whenever you like, really.
Or just come over whenever. That's the other option.
Yeah. But do find Jens.
Yeah, please. That'd be nice. Fabian Boyer has asked, have you tested the D-Like RER hybrid and can you do a comparison with the RMX? RMX. I used to have a RER. I bought it in Japan last Christmas when we were over there. I sold it fairly sharpish when I got back because I was a little disappointed with the build quality.
Yeah, I mean,
they're interesting enough chassis, but if I put it this way, I sold my RER after a very short period of time and I have two RMXs.
Well, yeah,
that says a lot to me.
I mean, we are biased, but the RER I found quite agricultural.
Yes,
like it was a good design, but it required expert build levels.
For me, the best thing about the RER is the knuckles, front knuckles and rear knuckles.
Yeah,
other than that,
knuckles are crazy.
It's just a normal chassis to me. There's nothing special about the rest of it at all. I would much rather have an RMX. I believe an RMX is a better four-wheel drive chassis, and I believe it's a better rear-wheel drive chassis. So that's the answer to that for me. Here's one for you while I find the rest. Ryan's asked, what would be the best way to set my shocks and springs up for rear-wheel drive on concrete? Once the car's sideways, there's plenty of grip, but the initial set-off and acceleration just wheel spins. Standard FXX gearing with a 10.5 motor.
FDR.
I was going to say FDR on that will be wrong. I'm almost 100% sure you will not be wanting to run the standard gearing.
Look to the setup guide and basically head straight for the part that says FDR.
Which is step one. Tim has asked a timely question. Can you do a section on how to build shocks properly, please?
Yes.
There you go, Tim. Done.
Shazam.
And when we have the low drag O-rings back in stock, I believe they're back in stock on Monday.
Yeah,
I think. I can't remember exactly if they're on this order or the next one, but it'll either be Monday or about a week later, hopefully.
Or buy a set of dampers, they come with them.
Yeah. One for you. Rory's asked, is there any advantage to rear caster angles, or is it just acting like anti-squat and pro-squat? No, it's not as simple as that.
It's not as simple as that. It's because it affects roll-on and axle dive and all sorts of things. So there's no simple answer there, Rory.
Akhtar's asked,
Akhtar,
can we have an update on Mitto's Skill Matters blog post, please? Maybe easier than making a video. That is true. It will be easier than making a video. But
yeah, but the video,
video is easier to explain.
Yeah.
So we want to do that, and that will happen at some point fairly soon.
Skill doesn't matter anyway. It's just how much money you spend.
Yeah, and how much time you spend.
Yeah.
Akhtar's next question is, speaking on scrub radius, should we aim for negative, positive, or neutral scrub? You shouldn't aim for anything. You should tune it to what suits you.
Or what feels good.
Yeah. Scrub radius is something that a while ago, maybe a year ago, everyone got obsessed with. And to this day, almost nobody I speak to actually understands what it actually does or why it works.
You can stabilize a car with, messing with scrub radius, but it's kind of like hiding other issues.
Yeah, I mean, scrub radius is one of those sort of endpoint fine-tuning things for me. It's like right at the end of the 10-step guide when you've car's working really well and you just want to tweak with stuff and play with it.
Put it this way, it's not part of the 10-step guide.
I think that there's not many people that would take advantage of a change in scrub radius, to be perfectly honest, or not many people that would understand or recognise the difference between it. It's a very, very fine-tuned kind of thing.
There now, perfect. and even and lovely in every way.
And
That's how long it takes to build dampers.
3 times. When you have to redo them.
No, that's. I mean, setting the rebound
Anyway,
is.
next question. JR's asked, any thoughts and plans of what you want to see and do next year for Soul and the drivers?
Someone's going to come along and give us like $1 million, and
Yeah.
then we're going to make the most awesome thing the world has ever seen.
Yeah. Or we'll carry on and do what we normally do.
Carry on, or I don't know, we'll jump out of a window or something.
I think
We'll do something.
Sure.
The only thing that is definitely going to happen is change.
Yeah.
Change is unavoidable.
There's one thing I was going to announce, but we'll save that for next week.
Okay. I don't know what that is, but tell me next week.
I think that's us kind of done, and I think that's us kind of needing to be done, to be honest. But hopefully people have found that helpful. I thought you were missing an O-ring, a sponge then. I thought you put 3 in. But
No,
I'll put one
they're
in.
all done.
Yeah.
All done.
We're done. My dampers are here. I haven't put the bottoms on these ones purely because I can't find the size that I need. I want 0s, and I've only got 2.5 here. So I'll dig that out later.
That's more complicated stuff.
Yeah, these about almost
Anyway.
exactly the same way, except for I have the adjustable top caps on.
That's because you fancy.
Because they work well.
Like and favorite this shit.
Become a damper today.
No, become a spring cup today. Right now.
Anyway, yeah, like and subscribe. And if there's anything specific that we can show you like this, feel free to request it. And if we think there's enough people that will benefit from seeing it, we'll do it next week.
Yeah, just ask.
And this weekend is our competition. So if you haven't booked in, you should probably do so.
Indeed.
And we will be back next week with a new track layout.
Indeed, doobly.
So we'll see you next week.
All right, Hummer Kavula.
Bye
Peace
for
out.
now.